Bobby Lashley has come back to the WWE. Or at least he has if you're listening to this around April 2018. Otherwise, who knows? Maybe he's left again. I don't know his future plans, but you've got to imagine it's going to be a decent run. Given that he's 41, it seems to make sense this would be his last big wrestling push. How the hell he still looks like that in his 40s too? Sheesh. He has had quite the career by this point though, and it'll be intriguing to see where he goes next. As for his past, well, we know all about that, and as ever, there are a few choice things WWE probably would like to ignore as he makes his way back through the Fed. It hasn't always been peaches and cream between the two. I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 Things WWE wants you to forget about Bobby Lashley. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Number 10 is TNA run. Because of course, aside from that one line by Kurt Angle on a recent episode of Raw where he buried TNA, WWE doesn't like talking about TNA. I don't know why. I don't think TNA or Impact Now is ever going to touch Vince McMahon's baby, but hey, that's just their rules, so good for them. It's getting more difficult, however, given who is currently at the top of the card. The company is always very careful when they talk about the achievements of AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe and friends for this very reason. No one ever goes, hey, they were on TNA. Probably be fired. It could be even stranger with Lashley, as when he left WWE first time around, he was still a work in progress, whereas in TNA, he proved that he was very much the finished article with real depth and substance. So Raw is going to have to get that across without actually acknowledging how they know this. Seems like a lot of hard work. Just say those 3 letters, damn it. No one's going to care. If they Google it, they'll probably get some porn. Number 9, the meme. Remember when Kalisto had a meltdown on camera and went on about doing lucha things? Of course you do. Firstly, it was the greatest thing to ever happen on WWE TV, but it's also one of those moments that's so bad it just sticks out like a sore thumb. It can be awful hard to move past these botches, mostly because of us fans. We are assholes. So, what WWE does not want you to remember is when Lashley was finding his feet, especially with promos, and was put in a program against Finlay. Being the softly spoken giant he was in the mid-2000s, he was given this line to say. You say your name is Finlay and you love to fight. I say your name is Finlay, you're a bastard. Again though, Bobby really didn't deliver it with any punch, and everyone thought he had said bath turd. And it did sound like that, which isn't really the most threatening thing in the world. Number 8, his big WWE moment. It sounds weird to say this, but there must be some truth to it, all things considered. But no, WWE has not distanced themselves from Donald Trump in any way. Some behind the scenes may even support him, but due to how divisive he is, the company has stayed quiet about it all. Business always comes first and foremost. Because of this, any shared history between Trump and anybody else doesn't come up as much as it once did, which would include him appearing at WrestleMania 23 with Bobby Lashley. It drew huge numbers at the time, was a genuine success, but don't expect WWE to be bragging about Lashley teaming with the President of the United States anytime soon. It could potentially be more hassle than it's worth. That does kinda suck when it comes to Bobby. I'm sure he'd want to use that association to get over, but he ain't getting it. So there. Number 7 is original push. Do you know who people hate in 2018? Roman Reigns. Do you know who was pushed in the exact same fashion years prior? Bobby Lashley. He was Vince McMahon's project and he was going to be thrown to the moon. Even people in developmental knew this as they tried to keep Lashley away from McMahon's eyes for this very reason. They knew he needed more time, but realised when the chairman of the board saw him that would be that. He'd be whisked away to the main roster. That's exactly what happened, and from there it was just a rise up the card. He was ECW champ, broke the Master Lock Challenge and went head to head with Vince McMahon himself as some sort of new Stone Cold. During all of this, WWE just ignored the fact he wasn't really getting over with the fans. What backstage brains wanted never worked, which is why now they want you to forget about it, especially, number 6, who the fans really wanted. We've already touched upon the fact that Lashley was the old school Roman Reigns, who of course struggled as all the fans loved Daniel Bryan. Well, this part was also on the table during this period, although here it was played by CM Punk. You can already see the comparisons. Bobby did receive his coronating moment on one of WWE's pay-per-views, even if it was only to little fanfare, but this was mainly because the audience at December to Dismember, where yes, Bobby Lashley won the ECW title, wanted Punk to win it. And this is kind of summed up because that pay-per-view flopped as it only pulled in 90,000 buys, which is still the least purchased WWE pay-per-view in history. In short, as good as Bobby may have been or could have been, the crowd didn't fancy it back then, so they just sat on their hands as it unfolded in front of them anyway. So you see, it's not just today's wrestling where this happens, it's basically been going on for years. Excellent. Number 5, his MMA career. Lashley has always been compared to Brock Lesnar throughout his tenure, mostly because there are similarities between the two. It's been unfair for the most part, especially when that transformed into names such as Diet Lesnar, as if to imply Bobby wasn't as good. This obviously continued when he too went into MMA. The man still did well, fighting his way through the Sunday League MMA circuit and making it to Bellator, but as that's not as impressive as becoming UFC champ, it just gets swept under the rug. WWE's signature of Ronda Rousey also pushes that down further, especially because there's now a relationship between the two. The UFC allows WWE to use footage of both Lesnar and Rousey, and in return, WWE will once more lend out its prize asset as part of the Beast's unique deal. So it seems unlikely Dana White's main competition is going to get a shout out, meaning Lashley's history has to get buried with it. Number 4, his strange introduction. Bobby Lashley's arrival into the WWE is weird. Coming in as a jacked up super athlete, he went toe to toe with Simon Dean, and if you've forgotten, that's Nova's WWE character who was a fitness instructor. Because of this, Dean promised that he would eat 20 double cheeseburgers if he lost at No Mercy 2005, which of course he did. Apparently a man who spends more time in the gym than at home saw this as a punishment, when really, most people would just see it as an eating challenge. Completely divorced from reality, this booking decision resulted in stupid comedy and wasn't exactly the introduction of a hero. It was, however, a man force-feeding someone else junk food. Cool. Number 3, Mr. McMahon's worst pay-per-view match. Mr. McMahon's in-ring hit ratio is absurd. His bout with Steve Austin at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view in 1999 was something of a mission statement. By taking a horrific bump from the wall of the steel cage to the announce desk, McMahon announced to the world that he would compensate for his age and experience by being nuts. And his greatest hits followed a similar template. His work at WrestleMania 17 was so camp in its brilliance that Linda McMahon was as over as anybody else in the stadium. Then there was Stephanie McMahon and Shawn Michaels, and every time Vince made them somewhat entertaining. Against Bobby Lashley though, a typically well laid out match did not provide fans with the nonsense they needed. For example, there was no evil rising from the ring apron or some revenge fueled kick to the balls. The mid-2000 Lashley was just thrust into a position beyond his experience and wasn't even given the usual smoke and mirrors to make it work. The 2018 version is a very good performer on his own merits, and it's important that WWE showcases this. It's come a long way. Number 2 is old finish. Do you remember Lashley's old WWE finish? It was a spear. This is now dead. Long live Roman Reigns. It's so protected no one else on the roster can even think about it, aside from Rhino every now and then, but he never wins. Doesn't make a difference anyway. This is actually a plus because for a while there, everyone was doing them to the point of lunacy. I remember Christian busted one out once, and if that was in tribute to Edge, it's ludicrous. It's probably smart to not try and tie Lashley and Reigns in together either. It's the last thing we, the fans, need, and you know for sure that WWE doesn't need that either. They would like Bobby to be cheered. Well, they'd like that for Roman as well, but let's take it one step at a time. Number 1, his original exit. Michael Hayes was allegedly responsible for Bobby Lashley's original WWE exit. He wasn't exactly a swell guy on occasion, and this, along with WWE's frivolous, insulting treatment of his then-girlfriend Crystal, was enough for Bobby to walk away. This was big because it was right as he was being pushed to the top, but his departing words certainly carried weight when he said, "Evil has prevailed." Certain industry veterans may spin this as rumour and innuendo, but it's telling that he was not subjected to the freeze-out treatment like other performers, such as Neville is today. Moreover, Lashley was free to pursue a TNA run, ignoring the usual non-compete clause, on the understanding that he would not make reference to any damaging details. So, it was all messy and very uncool, which makes his comeback more surprising. Let's just hope certain people have learned from their mistakes.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe below, and if you're looking for more content like this, then try a few things that are floating about around my ears. Might be fun. I can't promise it though, but it might be.